Word to Our City is a project where Nottingham Contemporary and other venues across the city worked with the refugee school in Nottingham, NEST, Nottingham Education Sanctuary Team, and we worked with those students, teenage refugees and asylum seekers, to develop their literacy and integrate them into the cultural life of the city. Lead teacher Jonathan and I worked with the students over several months in different groups, and typically I would go into the school and meet them and do some creative writing and some artwork, and then that would lead to a visit to a cultural venue where they would respond again through artwork and through creative writing and talking in order to acquire what you might call urgent utilitarian language, the language that students need for survival as refugees and asylum seekers. We could explore philosophical concepts which were stimulated and excited by the artwork. So you were dealing with big ideas in order to help the acquisition of everyday language. Across the project, they produced artwork, drawings, clay sculptures, installations. They wrote poetry, they wrote stories, they talked, and often all that work was blended. So they might do a drawing which is also the telling of a story in English and maybe in a home language as well. They were asked to create what we call text portraits. They were creating a character from which they could develop a story. And to do that, they were both drawing and writing, but they had the freedom to write both in English and in their home language. So often what they produced on the page was a blend of visual art, English and their home language. And I think that was very important because it became integrated and they felt that they could express themselves to a greater degree than if they could only have written in English. Nottingham Castle, it's a place about the past, the present and the future. It deals with history. Now those are quite complex concepts, but in the very first session we were looking at portraits of people here now and portraits of people in the past, and using those portraits to stimulate the telling of stories. And because we were doing that, past, present, future, we could also explore narrative structure. So the idea, the complex idea of the past, the present, the future was used to help write cogent narrative stories. In terms of the young people, because their identities were affirmed and acknowledged through their own languages, I feel and could see how the work impacted on their acquisition of English and their confidence to use it within this city. I think Jonathan at Nest would say that he has been able to explore new ways of teaching English in the classroom, which he can develop from the work we've done in the cultural venues on this project. In terms of Nottingham Contemporary, I think the impact has been and will be in its relationship with the Nest Refugee School itself, with its partners across the city, but also influencing practice here across all departments in terms of being a cultural venue that really wants to welcome with open arms people who come in here and acknowledge what they bring to this site as well as what we have to share with them. I'd say the most important thing to me as the child and grandchild of refugees was acknowledging the languages, the culture, the identities of the students that we were working with as we helped them engage with the culture of the city, and making sure that they felt that they were contributing to this, what they were bringing in their own cultural rucksack, as it were, to the city, as well as what we wanted to share with them as they grew in their life here. One of the very important impacts of the project is a digital resource which is going to be published on the Max Literacy website, which shares all the work that happened in the programme, the session plans, but also the background and the important ways in which people need to think before they work with refugees and asylum seekers. And I think that's going to be very impactful. It's going to be for artists and venues and educators to develop their practice in the future.